we have a very special interview that we want to share with you guys. We got the opportunity to interview the captain of the East Coast Hockey League, or the ECHL's, Reading Royals, and Todd Skirving. Now, we sat down with him for about an hour. It was awesome. It was a great interview, learning about his journey through the United States Hockey League, college, through the ECHL with the Solar Bears, the Everblades, the Growlers, and then coming to the Royals. It has just been all in all a terrific interview, and I do have a story that I want to tell first. This is the kind of guy who went into the merchandise store at the Reading Royals Arena, because again, the Royals Arena is relatively close to me. It lives an hour away. My girlfriend has season tickets. We go to almost every single home game. We've gone to almost every single one this season. And when we went, in the merchandise store, there are like these banners that are put up. I don't have one here. They're banners put up that have the players on them. Like, I'm sure you've seen them before. Like, they do them in the NHL. But Skirving went through all of them. Went through all the ones that had him on them. He signed every single one. That shows the kind of player, the kind of guy that we brought on this show, and like is a terrific person, is awesome, and is somebody that I've been getting to know the last couple of games with the Royals. We'll meet up after the game. We'll talk a little bit. We'll meet before, during. He's been injured a little bit, so that's why I've been talking to him a couple times. But he is absolutely terrific. I'm not going to waste any more time. Here is our interview with Royals captain Todd Skirving. We are pleased to be joined here with a very special guest, Thunder Bay born, a 3-time NCAA champion, a 2-time Kelly Cup champion, captain of the Newfoundland Growlers, and captain of the Reading Royals. We have Todd Skirving here joining us today on the podcast. Todd, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to hop on and talk a little bit of hockey with you guys.
Hell yeah, we'd love to hear that. So we're going to go a little bit through your career. We're going to talk about the Royals and, Newfoundland and all that good stuff. So the first question that we always ask everyone when we do these episodes is, how did you get into hockey? I'm sure being from Ontario, Thunder Bay, I'm sure it's pretty easy answer, but what's your story?
Didn't you hear we're born with skates up there?
Yes, sir.
No, I was like about 3 years old. My dad, obviously, my parents, mom and dad both got me like a pair of skates, and 2 blocks down from our house, we have a outdoor rink. So pretty easy to get on the ice. You go another 2 blocks, there's another rink. You go 2 blocks the other way, there's another rink. So it was easy to get on the ice. I remember the days of, pushing around a chair with my grandma, my parents down at Tarbert Park. And yeah, 3 years old, I think 4 I was in organized hockey in the Northwood Hockey League. And then, yeah, that's kind of how it started. And now we're here today. So almost 30 years ago now.
Jeez. All right. So coming out of Ontario, obviously you said that there's rinks everywhere. Were you always on the rink, always around a rink when you were kind of as a kid growing up and all that?
Yeah, like I said, just 2 blocks down. A snowstorm comes, we're down there with our shovels, we're plowing it off, and we're skating, we're getting the crew together. So I was always on the outdoor rinks. My parents fortunately put me in organized hockey as well. But even to this day, like if I could go back for Christmas or if I can go back for break, like when you're on the outdoor rinks, you don't really, it's not really, I would say, hockey. You feel like a kid every time you step on the outdoor rinks. So realistically, like when we did get those breaks at Christmas, I took my skates home and I just went out and played, it'd be like 5-on-5, 10-on-10 with kids out there. It kind of just brings you back to being a kid. So I was always on the rink. I still do it to this day. Any chance I can get on the outdoors, I just find like I'm a kid all over again. Obviously playing a game at the professional level still, it's a kid's game, but, definitely take advantage of getting on the ice anytime I can.
I love that. Was there anybody that like you played with that really inspired you, or like somebody that you really were inspired by while you were a young kid playing?
Yeah, when I was a younger kid, my favorite player was Mike Compon, which is one of the reasons why I wear number 17, because he wore number 17. So I followed him kind of growing up. At the Thunder Bay Flyers, they would do hockey school, so he would take me under his wing a little bit. My dad knew his dad. Hockey world's small, especially in Thunder Bay, and you basically know everyone that plays hockey. If you play hockey, you know everyone else. So he was one of my favorite players growing up watching. Obviously, I was a big Patrick Sharp fan, so he played for the Thunder Bay Flyers. and Chris Schaefer. So those three guys are kind of guys that I kind of followed. And yeah, have a good relationship with Sharpie. It's pretty cool now being on the Royals, and he was actually down for development skates, I think 2-3 weeks ago, and he kind of came up to me right away and asked how my dad was doing. So my dad used to work the penalty boxes back in Thunder Bay in those days for all the teams that kind of came through, and he worked on the medical staff, did a few of those things. He was a GM for a junior team. So like I said, I was always involved in hockey one way or the other. So having those guys to look up to playing for, major teams, USHL, like higher ranked teams, kind of gave me that inspiration to keep going and something to strive for.
Were you a Toronto Maple Leafs fan growing up, or were you a fan of another team, or did you just not watch?
Actually, Eric Dressberger asked me this on the air the other day when we were talking about the game. I grew up like a goalie fan. I followed a lot of the goalies. I was very interested in their pads and their gear and their helmets. And then one that kind of stuck out with me the most was Dominic Hasek. And when he got traded to the Detroit Red Wings, that's when I became a Detroit Red Wings fan. I kind of started following teams. So I actually have a Detroit Red Wing. The wall in my room at my parents' house, at the back wall, is completely red with a logo on it with, I think, a Datsuk signed picture and a Zetterberg one. So I was a big Red Wings fan growing up. Got to watch him win the cup a couple times. But yeah, but now, I mean, I can say I do cheer for the Leafs. I've kind of become a bit of a fan, definitely, just because being in that organization for such a long period of time, you've seen players go up, I've seen staff members go up. And I basically say, like, I'm cheering for those people. I know how much they want to win, how much, they meant to me, and you want to see them have success. So kind of became a Red Wing or Leafs fan from that. I mean, I can't say I've watched a Red Wings game lately. I've watched the Leafs game a little bit last night. I kind of watch them every time they're on so I could follow them and all the people that are involved in our organization. So,
well, my girlfriend's going to love that answer because she's a Red Wings fan. So
yeah.
She's going to love that. All right, Carter.
Yeah, so obviously you kind of started from the BCHL and you kind of made your way to the USHL in transition. Kind of how did that all come about and how did that really work for you?
We've always been curious about that. Like, how does the transition from a league to another work? Did you know somebody who got you in there, or did you try out? Like, how does that really work a lot of the time?
Yeah, it actually kind of started when I was 16 a little bit. or 15 or 16. I went to an open camp for the Sioux City Musketeers of the USHL. Dave Siciliano was the coach. He's from Thunder Bay. A great coach that came from Thunder Bay that coached that league. Travis Alexic at the time had been playing for Sioux City, so I basically got my foot in that way and just going into just an ID camp, basically knowing that I was just going there for a camp. I mean, to make the team would be pretty hard at that age. I necessarily wasn't a stud by any means, but actually had a good camp. Played U18 travel hockey for the Thunder Bay Kings till I was U18. And then there's a couple trips out west that we played in the Kelowna International Tournament where I got scouted by a couple different BCHL teams, Vernon, Penticton, ultimately chose Vernon, which was still an unbelievable league. I mean, guys were, committing to schools from that league left and right. So USHL was kind of always on my radar. It was something that I was always striving for. At that point, they had rules on how many imports you can have. So you'd have to be a pretty good player just to be kind of, welcome to a team and signed to a card. So after my first year in the BCHL, I was in Vernon until the deadline. Got traded to PG, and then in that summer, Marcus Perrier played for the Sioux Falls Stampede. Had a good career. Was there a couple of years, and he kind of put the word up to his coach. So basically, long story short, I got a call from Kevin Hartzell. It was on our voicemail because we had a house phone then. That's how old I am, and basically was just saying, "Hey, I heard about you from Marcus Perrier. Just want to give you an invite to camp. Hopefully you can come down and see what you got." And I remember just telling my dad and my parents that day, I just said, you know what, BCHL is great, but this is a great opportunity to hopefully get a scholarship. This is next level. I was I'm going to make this team. I'm going in there not knowing, but I packed as if I was on the team, and it was fortunately able to have a good enough camp and was able to go. So there was no real, I don't think there's a fee they got to get back to the BC League at that point or anything. It was just an open tryout, and I was able to make the team, and then obviously spent 2 years there. So word of mouth definitely helps in hockey, and having buddies that have played elsewhere. And again, it doesn't guarantee you a spot. Like I said, I had no idea if I was going to make that team or not, but I just kind of said, you know what, this is my opportunity. I need to do whatever I can. And fortunately, I was able to make the Stampede and have, two arguably of the best years of my life.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, going from BCHL, the USHL is in my opinion, it's one step further, and then after that, you can go straight to the NCAA, and that's for other players, it's a really good chance you get to the NHL from that point. So again, like the USHL was a big step for you. Was there anything like that you really learned from your 2 years there that you really kind of carry on today as like the captain of the Royals? Like, is there things that you learned then that you still use now?
Um, Maybe not. I mean, not necessarily because it's like a decade ago now, but I think just the idea of like living on your own, like that's like that was my first year living away from my parents. So having a billet family, getting to know like a different family, like putting the trust in them, trusting your teammates a little bit more, trusting your coaches that you're in a good spot. Just I mean, I wouldn't say learning to be a pro at that age because like that's still pretty young, but just learning how to kind of be on your own, time manage, taking classes online and being able to, manage both of those with meals and just kind of doing the right thing is like, obviously there's some downtime and you can kind of do whatever, but just kind of going through the process and being a kid and being young and learning the ropes from the older guys and, hopefully building, things that will help you later in life, which I could definitely say I did. I've had good coaches there and Kevin Hartzell and Kerry Eads in Sioux Falls. And, Christian Bragnell was actually assistant coach my second year there, who was from my hometown. So I actually knew his dad because he was my principal in high school. So that made things easier. And we had Dallas Stewartson, who went up to NCAA. So like I said, we had really good people and like really knowledgeable people. So we were set up pretty well. And then the fans in Sioux Falls were unbelievable. So like, you come to the rink, you get cookies, you get, goodies and whatnot. They're always checking in on you. So you never really got homesick. I just felt like you always had family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. You have any you were in Sioux Falls for kind of 2 years there. Is there anybody that you took a lot from during your time there and like any good stories from like either the group of guys you had or just the team that you had there?
Yeah, the first year when I got there, like we actually, we missed the playoffs, I think, that first year. But the guys are great. We had a younger team, a lot of high school guys. So, like, I didn't really see them actually because I was done high school. So it was a bit of a younger team. But coming back that second year, like, we had Charlie Lindgren. My roommate, Ed McGovern, was there. Yeah, like, we had a really good team, honestly, that second year. Like, I'm still a little choked about it 10 years later. That was kind of our year to win. Like, we should have won the semis, and I really think we would have won the finals. We lost to the team that ended up they ended up getting swept in the finals. So I'm still choked about that one. But I mean, for good stories, like the second season, I had a different billet, so I would actually sneak out of my billet. I'd sneak out my window, out my back door, and I'm sure they knew because sometimes I'd come home and the door would be locked. But I would sneak out and I go to Charlie Lindgren's house all the time, and we'd be, it'd be me, Matt Van Voris, Ed McGovern, I think, Sam Rothstein. So some of us would sneak out of our houses at night and we'd just sleep there. Like I would sleep there, we'd game, we'd watch South Park, we'd do all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say it's that rebellious, but we did it because we loved being together all the time. And, Chucky's in the NHL now. So it's really cool that, and I'm sure just like any other hockey player, you make all those relationships and it's cool to stay in touch with them. And realistically, like that's kind of brings me happiness now, joy, seeing those guys succeed at the highest level, knowing that, you were part of their journey, they're not big enough to forget about us. I can message Chucky anytime and he'll reply every single time. So those are like the special relationships that you make along the way at any level really that you see. And it's nice to see, those guys, not just hockey, but move on to the real world and have success there too.
Okay, 2 questions. First one is very not serious. What kind of games were you playing back then?
I think we honestly just played straight up NHL. Really? My first year, when I was in Sioux Falls, it was funny. We actually had like one room was kind of like a game room where they had like Xbox, a bunch of different. Like I had a really good, billet family, Brad Anderson and Melissa Anderson, and the room downstairs they had like a theater room. So someone was able to sleep like in the bedroom downstairs or sleep in the bedroom upstairs, and we just put both our queen beds in one room and literally slept in the same room the entire year. So we can go up and game in the game room, and like we can. Like he can have a date up in the game room and I can like hang out downstairs in the theater room or vice versa. So we'd be back and forth on that. And every night we'd come back to our room and we'd just watch Super Troopers before bed every single night. It would be blaring. So we came pretty close, but the NHL was the biggest thing. Like Eddie would kick the crap out of me every time and we'd get in like fights because I'd be pissed off because he'd do the same move every time and it would work. And I'd be like, it's just a cheat code in EA Sports. And he would do it every time. And we'd go at it all the time, and he would always come out on top. But that's what we play at Chucky's house. We usually have tournaments where we'll 2-on-2 and play against each other. So that was the game that we played a lot.
I've always wondered this with guys who are like in the NHL and like in the pro leagues. Does it feel weird that like you have a player in the video game, like you are in the video game itself? Does that feel like weird, or do you just not think about that? That's something that I always think about.
I mean, it's funny because I used to grow up and everyone used to make their own player, right? You're 99
Yeah,
everything and you're a superstar. But now, like, at first it was like different because people said, hey, look at the card I pulled today. And like, I don't even really play game anymore. So I'm like, I don't even know what a card is. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm on your team? Like, I get it more often than not now. So, I mean, before it was gets kind of weird. Now it's just like, I know the ECHL is in there and like we're all in there. So, like, I guess it's cool because like it never used to happen. So, um, yeah, it kind of just is what it is. Like it's pretty cool, I guess. Like I don't think too much of it because the ranking's pretty low and it is what it is. But I guess it is pretty cool because you do get a lot of like kids messaging you saying, "Hey, like pull your card," or "Hey, this and that." So if it gives them a little inspiration, then great. So cool, I
I,
guess.
I agree with you. It is a little bit too low. So I want to talk about your transition from. Oh, sorry, I missed the one thing. The transition from the USHL and going to Rochester Institution of Technology. Why did you choose RIT? What influenced you, and kind of how did that happen?
Yeah, so they actually saw me like when I was U18 at that Kelowna International Tournament. And I think they watched me a little bit when I was in the BCHL. And then they followed me when I was in Sioux Falls. And then I had conversations with Hillsy, Wills, Slinky. And then I had like a few options. I wouldn't say I had a lot of options, but I had like a few. But RAT just seemed very, very interested. And, their selling point was every class that comes through there either has like a regular season championship or a playoff championship. So like they win. They win in their conference. They go to the tournament and at least give themselves a chance. So like you're gonna go to a rink, you're gonna go to a place that's like supported, a good fan base and whatnot. So Slinks actually talked to me. It was either a Friday or Saturday, and then actually like I had committed early that. Well, I went for a visit, and then committed, and then that next weekend, I actually sprained my MCL. So I actually really didn't feel the same the rest of that season, but I missed some time, and then I came back, and it just wasn't the same. Wasn't as good, I'd say. So it's kind of a blessing, really, because if I didn't commit, like I don't know what would have happened. But just like the conversations, the winning culture, good academic school, but with academics is just having a chance to win every year, and that's something historically they've done. So we were able to capture two championships, two conference championships. There at the time, we were able to win or be the first number 16 seed upset a one seed. And then the next year we ended up losing, obviously, in the first Sweet 16. But it's always cool to just go there and give yourselves a chance. But it was successful time there, that's for sure.
Awesome. So kind of, I know I'm keep interrupting you, Carter, but kind of take us through that 16v1 upset there. Like, how was the locker room before that game? Like, did you guys go into that with the mentality of we're gonna beat this freaking team? We don't care what seed they are. We don't care what seed we are. And kind of how was the reaction after? Because that's insane. Like the first team in that class, like that's unreal.
Yeah, no, it was like, it's happened. I don't think that's never happened before. RAT went to the Frozen Four, I think, in 2010. So it's not like, and like we had played like, I think that year that we had gone, we had played some like top 10 ranked teams throughout the season. So the reality is in those one game eliminations is like, you just got to win one game. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes like Mankato State's was an unbelievable team. But the thing about those games is like maybe you run into a hot goalie, which we had that game. Our goalie was on. He stopped 30, 40. I can't even remember because it's been a while, but like our goalie stood on his head. I think our second goal that went in, maybe it shouldn't have been counted, but it was counted. Like you need some things to go right along the way too. And like a team like Mankato who is consistent all year, like we're coming in there and we're like, we just got to find a way to win in one game, So the pressure realistically is probably on them. We're more loose and we're saying, we have nothing to lose. Just go play our hearts out and give ourselves a chance, which we did. Realistically, looking back at it, maybe we shouldn't have won that game. Like they played, we played good. They might have been the better team, rightfully so. And then the second game, I thought like we played really good. And we were one game away from going to the Frozen Four and Massa, the goalie on Omaha, Nebraska, like stood on his head and I think we got shut out that game or we lost 4-1. I can't remember, but again, in those one game eliminations, I just feel like anything can happen. It could be a ref maybe makes a bad call and they score on a power play. It could be a guy blows a tire, it's in the back of the net, or you can run into a hot goalie. So those tournaments, in my opinion, are so up for grabs. I mean, the best teams don't always win. It's, the hot teams at the right time doing the right things. So, but yeah, we were excited, definitely. We kind of made history. But again, you got to move forward from it because you have another game a day or two after that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the job done, but it was a pretty cool experience, that's for sure.
All right,
Yeah,
Carter, now I'll let you
for
go.
sure. Okay, so obviously talking about your time at RIT. Before I get to the last one about RIT, before you kind of committed there, did you have other schools kind of talking to you at all, or was it just kind of RIT kind of throughout?
I talked to UMass Lowell a little bit. They were in the mix. I actually talked to Yale. My grades were actually good enough to go there. But the SAT score that you kind of needed, I mean, I did take the SAT or ACT. I can't even remember because I needed it for RIT, but it wasn't high enough for Yale, and I would have had to take it again. And not gonna lie, I just didn't think I could do it. Like I didn't think I could get higher or 8 or whatever the score was. I couldn't remember what I needed to get, but I just didn't think I could do it. And I was like, I don't know if it's for me because I just didn't know if I had the discipline, honestly, to like go through that. And it's a really well known academic school, and I just didn't think I had it. And then I was talking to Bemidji. Omar Belair was the vice principal at my high school, so he would actually. His brother was the coach with Bemidji, so like I would actually get called down to the office some days, and I'd just be chilling in the vice principal's office, and he'd be talking to me about Bemidji and selling me in on that. And but yeah, ultimately it was RIT. Like Bemidji was probably I'd say 2 out of like the top 2 between those two. But I think just with Bemidji's recruiting class, like there just wasn't a fit really for me. Understandably, like it is what it is. No hard feelings. It just felt like RIT had the best fit for me academically and opportunity to play as a freshman and an opportunity to have a championship each year. So that's why I ended up going there.
Are there any other like really good stories that you have from your time at RIT? Also, what did you major in while you were there? Or not?
I went into biomedical science to start because I thought I'd maybe be like a nurse or a pharmacist or something like that. I don't know why, but I was really good at like biology and chemistry, but I really sucked at physics. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't ever just understand it. And I knew I needed to complete a lot of that just to get through. So the first semester I had like 6 classes in a lab. Like it was 8 to whatever every day. And it was a grind within that first couple weeks. So then I made the shift to maybe doing packaging science because there was like jobs right out of university. We had guys go through the program before. Sorry, I got an alarm here. I think that was my reminder for the 7:30 podcast, but we've moved it up an hour. Got to make sure I got no more. But then I was going to do packaging science because of like the money that was like the jobs that were available at the time. But again, you needed a lot of physics, and every day like guys are kind of going out and having fun, and I'd be sitting in my room looking out the window, just like I'm ripping through this book because I need to, because I won't understand it if I don't study. So it's just every night it's like, you know what, this just isn't for me. So then I just went into business for the rest of that first semester, and then I switched to new media marketing, and then I minored in public relations. So I just felt like it was so natural for me to it was pretty easy, honestly, because I feel like business is relationships and having conversations and whatnot, and it was just something that was natural for me. So I ended up doing that. I took a lot of other courses along the way just so I checked off a bunch of other things so I could learn a few things for electives, but ultimately that's what I ended up doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then last one about RIT. So you won 3 straight AHA championships. What were kind of some of the best lessons or kind of things that you learned going on those 3 runs that you might still use today or that you don't really use, but you kind of during that first little bit after that, you kind of used them a lot?
I think
Besides just what winning is.
What's that?
Besides learning what winning is.
Yeah. No, I think it's just going through. I mean, our first year, I can't remember what it was, but we had a tough year. We lost our captain to a season-ending injury, and we just couldn't really rebound because he was such a big player for our team, and he carried a lot of the offense and whatnot. So experiencing that and just having like the hunger to, turn the tides and be one of those classes that, gets a championship. Just coming together. It's again, getting hot at the right time and, just finding ways. Like I said, it's the best way to kind of go through it or experience or help or learn from it is just finding ways to win and then being able to help the next class and kind of create that winning culture of what it takes, whether it's coming to practice every day, getting in the weight room, and just doing like basically your habits and your details. And it's the margin of winning. I probably isn't that big. It's just the guys that want to do it longer and the guys that are willing to sacrifice for the guy beside him. And we had a lot of selfless players at RAT, and a lot of guys that go there to win a championship. So you're going to get a lot of guys that will sacrifice for each other. And fortunately, we were able to do that a couple of years in a row and have a lot of success there.
So I want to get into the ECHL in your first year. You're going from college hockey to pro hockey. How does that really happen? Did you, again, like other times, did you know somebody? Did a team scout you and be like, hey, I want to sign you? How did that really happen as well? Was it completely out of the blue?
Yeah, it was a little bit out of the blue.
Oh, wow.
I had got injured on January 7th of my senior year because I remember the date. Because I had planned it, like I only had one class my senior semester every Wednesday, 6 to 9. I needed it to graduate, so I kind of set it up like where I had a fun, easy spring semester where I could maybe join a pro team at the end. So I got injured my wrist, and I ended up not feeling good again until I think it was July 24th where I started like shooting a puck again. So I was injured pretty good. And then I really didn't know. I honestly didn't know what was going to happen. I was kind of just in limbo a little bit. And then Brian Hills, the assistant coach at RIT, texted me, said, "Hey, Drake Berehowski just called me with Orlando Solar Bears, and he just said, hey, like put in a good word with him, pumped your tires a little bit. Might want to check in with him, see what happens." And then, long story short, Drake kind of reached out. I didn't really have many other teams kicking the tires. So just said, hey, I want to bring you in, sign you to, a PTO, or not a PTO, but a contract. We're with the Leafs organization. You'll go to Marley's camp first, and then we'll see you down in Orlando. And I was like, that sounds pretty good to me. Like, let's go. Like, I'm going to Toronto Marley's camp first, and now I'm going to the Sunshine State. So like, it was a pretty easy sell for me, that's for sure. And, then I was in Orlando.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going from nice cold Ontario into sunny Florida, I don't think it gets much better than that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a treat, that's for sure.
So you were dealt 3 times during your first season. Was that kind of like an eye-opener to you, or is this kind of common in the ECHL and in the hockey business world?
Yeah, it was definitely a shock. I was probably I was in Orlando for like 2/3 of the year. Got to know the guys. We had a pretty good group, I'd say. Got to know them really well. Loved it, obviously. Loved the fans. And then I got the news that I was traded to Utah, so I was pretty devastated. Shed some tears that day for sure, saying goodbye to the guys. When I went to Utah, I kind of looked at their rosters, saw like their best players were on the IR, and I'm thinking like, oh man, these guys are going to come back and I'm going to be gone. And I saw the road trip they were going on, and they were going to Rapid City. So they were going for like a long overnight bone rattler bus trip to, middle of, I think, what is that, South Dakota? South Dakota, I think. Rapid City, South Dakota. I think that's where it is, right? Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and I just had a bad feeling. It's like, I feel like I'm only here for a quick stint because I'm a plug-in, like a fill-in the lineup to help them for now. And like, I thought I played well, and then long story short, got the text from the coach, went in there, hey, put some feelers out. Atlanta jumped all over you, and then I was on my way to Atlanta literally 2 weeks later. So it was definitely tough, but I had a sense of relief going back to Atlanta because when I got there, like the coaches met with me and be like, hey, like you could only dress 10 forwards at that time, mind you. So there's only 10 forwards in the lineup.
Really?
Yeah, not 11, not 12, so 10. So he said, hey, like we need a face-off guy and a guy who's going to kill penalties for us. And I said, honestly, like I'm in. Like I'll do it. And so sure enough, like I would take a lot of big face-offs. Sometimes I'd go out in overtime and just take the opening face-off and get off, things like that. I would kill penalties. And I'd still get 5-on-5 shifts, but like that was like, I was like, I have a role, like I have a niche, like this is perfect. And I had known some guys from just playing against them when I was back in the South Division. So it was an easy transition. And that's where I ended up finishing my rookie year off.
Why was that they only had 10 forwards? Was it just because you didn't have enough players? Was it just the rules back then?
That was just the rules. Yeah. I was like, that's how, and then that would have been 17, 18, and then even 18, 19 was 10 as well. And then it was after COVID when they bumped it to 11, I think, and now it's 12.
It's a little interesting. So you go from bouncing around the league basically during your first year in the ECHL to Newfoundland. And I believe you were a free agent in 2018 and decided to go to Newfoundland. How did that happen? And what was your overall first impression of that place?
So the beginning of that season, I had re-signed to go back to Atlanta. We had just got
Oh,
Our
really?
coach actually left to go to, I think it was RPI, Chuck Weber. But we got a new coach, and I mean, honestly, probably had one of the best camps I've ever had. And I got pulled in the office, and he said, "Hey, like we're releasing you," which is almost worse because everyone has the same problem at the beginning of the year: is everyone has enough bodies, everyone's got too many bodies.
Yeah.
So I got released, and I had said, "Hey, was there anything I could have done differently in this camp to make your team?" And he basically said, "No, like you did everything. We're just gonna release you." And I said, "All right, great." So I was just kind of in limbo. I texted Drake with Orlando. I texted John Snowden, who was the assistant in Orlando when I was there. And I just said basically, "Hey, like I might go to the SP until Christmas. There's a few teams that have reached out to me already. I might go there till Christmas and just give myself a chance and see what happens. But realistically, in my opinion, like that's probably something that wasn't like long term because I don't think that was something I could do or wanted to do." So I waited around for like a week and a half, and then John Snowden reached out to me, and he kind of started just saying what it was like in Newfoundland because he became the assistant there. And I was like, okay, like where are we going with this? And then he called me and he just said, "Hey, like this is our team. Like, I'll talk to Ryan Clough and see if it's something you want to do. Like, but would you be interested in coming here? Like, you'd be a depth piece because we have a lot of contracted guys. Like, only 10 forwards played, and we had 11 contracted guys. And we had another ECHL guy, Marcus Power, who was like ended up being on the first line. So basically, I would have been in the 13th forward. And I basically just said, like, Snowy, like, well, he said like, "Hey, is this money good for the contract?" And I basically said like, "Snowy, like send me the effing contract. Like I'm coming and I'll do anything." He's like, "All right, I'll get Trevor to connect with you." Trevor Murphy, he's like, "Connect with you." And sure enough, like Trevor, they sent the contract over. I was in Atlanta still, and Gretchen and Steve Cordell took me to the airport, who are fans I got to know there really well, are basically like family now. And they took me to the airport early next morning, and off I was to Newfoundland. And I landed in Newfoundland, like never been. I've obviously heard of it being a Canadian, but that's pretty far. I got off a plane in a hoodie and I was like, "Wow, it's cold here. Like, here we go. Like, this is something new." So that's kind of how I got up to Newfoundland, and I ended up being there a long time.
Going from Florida to Newfoundland to Utah. This guy's been
Yeah.
all over North America. It's actually crazy. All right, Carter.
That is awesome. So in that first season in Newfoundland, you ended up winning a Kelly Cup. What did you kind of learn going on that run as well that like kind of really made an impact in your career? Obviously, at RIT, you're no stranger to going on runs and winning championships and anything like that. But kind of that first professional championship, kind of what was going through your head with that?
Well, to be honest, it started like my first morning skate. Like I got there, whatever day it was. They'd played Friday, Saturday. I can't remember the day. I might have got there like a Monday night late, and they had a game on the Tuesday against Adirondack, and I was skating around a morning skate, and I was like, "Holy crap! Like this is fast." Like I feel kind of like I called my dad after. I was like, "I don't know if I'm gonna make it like last year. Like these guys, like they had like so many contracted players, older players. Like they just had a really good mix." And I was like, "This team is like good." And then as the season went on, like the way we were winning games and the players we had, and like the points guys were putting up and the plays guys were making, I was like, "Holy crap! Like we have a good team here." And then sure enough, you go on a run and they just kept finding a way, and the confidence and the swagger in the group. And then just from experiencing winning a couple times, you know when you have a group that has a chance. So like I felt that, like I was like, we have a legit chance. And then as you go on, you just kind of feel like it's gonna happen. Like you just feel like unless something goes sideways here, like it's happening. And fortunately that year with everything that kind of went on and in my career, but just having all the pieces that we had there, and Ryan Clough had to step down because of his concussion syndrome that he had from his playing days, and then Snowy to take over, and Daryl jumping in, and just it was so seamless. And we just had guys that were selfless and cared about each other and wanted to win. And fortunately, we were able to win in their inaugural season. So it was special not just for us, but that was the first ever professional championship Newfoundland's ever had. So it had a lot of meaning and quite the celebration for a week after and parade.
Wow, that's great.
A championship in Newfoundland. I don't know if there's much better there.
I don't know how.
It's been a riot.
I don't know how we're alive right now. Really, I don't.
Okay, so let's jump forward a little bit to the 2022-23 season. So in November of 22, you started the first installment of the Skirving t-shirts signed to raise money for Movember, which, by the way, like over the last 2, you've slowly turned into a lion. I don't know if you've realized that.
Oh yeah, it's all part
But
of it.
for the people, like a lot of these people that listen to the show may know who you are, but for some of the people who don't, kind of how did that happen? What gave you the idea to do that? And, the overall story for that.
It started when I was like 19. I'd grow that exact same mustache. I went to a barber, got my head shaved, and I said, "Hey, like I had a little bit of facial hair," and I was like, "Hey, like let's like." I looked on Google and I was like, "Hey, let's make a mustache and like do it something like this and do this," and then I just kept doing it every year. And then obviously, as you get older, you realize like the true meaning behind it and whatnot, and raising awareness. So I did something at RIT. I don't know if that was my senior year or not. I was able to kind of do something there with a local hospital, and then I just kept growing it out in pro ranks, just try to raise awareness because everyone does a mustache and organizations do different things. And then when my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I was just like, oh, like this is like we've always talked about maybe doing a shirt and doing something. But I was like, this is the perfect opportunity now to like use like our situation to make a difference. So we kind of came up with the idea of getting a shirt. Super fan Paul Loader in Newfoundland designed like the original one. And then I had the Newfoundland Embassy and Saltwater Designs kind of, kickstart that original shirt. And then Paul's Loader's buddy, Lee Bennett, like he does those graphic designs that you've kind of seen on the second and third shirt. And we just been able to kind of do it every year and come up with a cool design. Obviously, the line this year is because of the Royals. Last year had meaning in terms of like the fighting like the third monkey, like trying to get on Noah's Ark. Like they only took 2 of everything. So my dad was the monkey being the third guy trying to fight on. So that's how it's kind of like evolved over the years. And yeah, it's been great. Like I said, it creates a lot of awareness. The fans are pretty good at supporting it. It has a little more meaning and just another way to give back to the community.
That's terrific. And how is your dad doing today?
He's good. His numbers are low. It's not fully gone, but I mean, realistically, it's manageable and it's in the kind of monitoring phase. So it's been good. And, he hasn't really skipped a beat. Like when it happened and we heard about it, it was shocking and all that, but he's kind of just kept even keel and kind of allowed me to just go out every day and keep doing what I've been doing with no real worry. So it's been great to have him, my mom's support, and obviously everyone else too.
That's good. Awesome.
That's awesome. So obviously in 2022-23, you played a game up for the Marlies in the AHL. Being from Ontario, I think that anytime you get to wear a maple leaf, whether it's Toronto Maple Leafs or Marlies, I think that's obviously got to come with a lot of honor. Can you kind of take us through how that came to happen and what was going through your head as you kind of got to wear that?
And you're coming off like, oh, sorry. You're coming off of like your best year in the ECHL, 58 points, like had a 30-goal year. Like it was your best year by far in the coast. So sorry, continue.
It was a conversation I had with Ryan Hardy like the summer leading up to that year. And I was just talking about like, hey, like maybe an AHL contract or, something like, I'd ask and just see and kick around. And he just said, hey, have a good season and we'll like see where we're at and whatnot. So Eric Wellwood and Nate McIver were our coaches that year and the year before, and they were honestly unbelievable for me. They really helped me along and just kind of allowed me to really be myself and, break things down for me and help me along. So obviously the season was going very well for our team, and a lot of guys were having individual success. And then we just finished in Norfolk, and I had just, scored an empty netter that ended up being 30 goals on the year. Shout out to Keenan Southers. I looked him off and I said, it's been like 8 or 9 games with like out a point. I was like, I got to go for this and like get this monkey off my back. Cause everyone kept saying, you're going to get 30, you're going to get 30. And I wasn't trying to think about it, but when everyone's asking you every day, I'm like, I don't know, man, we're running out of games here. So I was able to get that. And then we were flying back to Newfoundland. And I had a missed call from Ryan Hardy. And like jokingly, I said like, oh, he's just congratulating me on 30 goals because him and Lawrence Gilman, and anytime like I kind of reached personal career highs, like they were always good to like shoot me a text and whatnot and congratulate me on certain things. So I just like jokingly said that in my head, went to the bathroom, called him quickly, and he said, hey, like we had good conversations in the summer, like you've been playing really well. I'd like to call you up. So I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. I was like, let's effing go, like let's go. And so I'm thinking like, all right, we just got back from Norfolk. I think it was Sunday night or Monday night. It was Sunday night, I think. So then I had to call my parents and let them know. And the following weekend we were playing Trois Rivières at home. So I was like, hey, like I have good news and bad news. What do you want first? Like the bad news. Like, well, the bad news is I won't be here when you like come here like in a day or two because they were coming throughout the week. I was like, I'm not going to be here. And they're like, well, what's the good news? Is like I just got called up to the Toronto Marlies, and my dad's like, no way. I said, yeah, like I just landed. Like I'm leaving. I'm leaving Tuesday morning. And sure enough, yeah, like I still couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I was like, this is unbelievable. I go to equipment manager Hornby. I was like, hey, like, I'm getting called up. He's like, well, obviously I know. Like, I got to get your gear. And I was like, all right, all right. So then I'm like, all right, like, my parents are obviously going to buy the game. So I told, like, Mike Dixon with the Marlies, and I just said, hey, like, is there any way I can, like, you can help me reroute my parents to, like, come see the game? Because, I mean, realistically, it'd be cool to have them there. And then, long story short, he just asked for their passports, and then I flew to Toronto Tuesday morning to meet the team, and they flew my parents down to Toronto to meet the team and I there, and then they flew us all to Hartford with the team, played the game Wednesday night, and then they car serviced me and another guy on our team. I honestly can't remember at the time. So I played the game, and then they car serviced us out, and then flew me and my parents back to Newfoundland. So I was back in time for the 3-3 against Twal. And then in Skirving fashion, like my gear didn't show up Friday, so I missed Friday's game, and then I played Saturday, Sunday. But it was like I said, they spent a lot of money on my one game. It's something that I'm grateful for. My parents are. My mom never saw me play a pro game before, so she has the upper hand on my dad because she saw my first American League game with him. So she, has bragging rights there. But my dad's seen more pro games in person, so they battle about that all the time. But yeah, it was cool. Like I felt like a kid, honestly. Like, they gave me a rookie lap and all that kind of stuff, and got treated just like a rook there. But it was nice to share it with some guys because we had a lot of guys called up at the time. So got to share all that moment with them, my parents, and a lot of fun. Pretty crazy.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Have your parents been to Reading yet?
No, they're planning on coming in March, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I guess we should talk about what happened with the ECHL Growlers team. Obviously, we all know what happened. They ended up folding at the end of the season. Did you, being the players, know that was a possibility or know that was going to happen before?
I heard rumblings, obviously, but I heard rumblings about us and Trois Riviere, and in my head, I always thought, like, we're the baby, like, we're not going to be the team that folds. From my understanding, like, there was meetings, we went into it and said, hey, Growlers, you have a buyer? No. So we're done. Trois, I guess, got, like, a call last minute to kind of, like, save them from folding. Again, that's what I heard. I think that's what it is, but, don't quote me on it just because I'm not sure of, like, all the details. I don't know if I'll ever fully know because I'm sure it's a makeup of a lot of things. But yeah, I really didn't think we were going to fold. And then the day before it happened and the morning of, it just felt really, really quiet. And I just had this feeling kind of come over me, like something's not good. Like it's just too quiet and something's going on right now. And sure enough, we folded.
Wow, that's unfortunate. Do you believe that if there was a possibility for the ECHL to go back there, do you think that it would work? Because you played there for like 4 years. Like,
yeah,
you have a special connection to that city. Do you think that it would work out again?
I don't know. I like the logistics for like traveling and flying. Like it is a lot of money. Maybe if they got a Quebec Major Junior team now that I think is maybe their last chance at a team for Newfoundland. Just flying and how much the travels cost and whatnot. I feel like this team that's there now is probably got a more realistic chance of lasting for a long time. I feel like the only way a pro team would ever go back there is if for whatever reason the Q team doesn't work and you just have someone with a lot of money, or maybe there's a time where the NHL and American League teams start owning their coast teams and then that's where they're funded by. But right now, like obviously we have different owners and it's a lot of money to fork out for, I think Newfoundland, like I'm pretty sure like we pay for teams to come play us basically. Like you got to pay for their travel and after a certain point, like there's a lot of different costs that go into it. So, I mean, I'm just like, it sucks that the coast team's not there anymore. So I don't know if they'd ever go back, but, just really hoping that this Q team works because we did have great support. Like it's a one of a kind place to play. And, a lot of visiting teams were pretty devastated too because, that's where they have a lot of their fun. They come there early, they stay there later, they do rookie parties there. So I just don't know if an ECHL team will ever work. I mean, at Q team, it makes more sense, less travel. You can go away for a little bit and closer flying. So, but yeah, it was definitely a crappy day for not just us, but probably the entire province, I'd say.
Yeah.
But happy they got a team back. I'm pretty pumped. I'm glad they got a team back because it's just weird to have like a big building like that and not have like a main tenant of like high caliber hockey, you know? I know the senior team and junior B team have done a good job this year, at least keeping that building open and giving fans, that hockey fans in the community at least something to look forward to. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always good. So after the Growlers folded, you ended up going to the Everblades. You ended up signing with them. Were there other teams in mind, or was Florida kind of on you from the start and just kind of you wanted to get back to that nice warm weather?
yeah, no, Tuesday we folded. We became automatically free agents. I think Tuesday night I'd gotten like a message from Trois Rivières, Maine, Fort Wayne, Idaho, and Florida. Well, not Florida right away, but I got in text from like Cam Johnson, who I've gotten to know from playing against over these years, and we got crippled at the All-Star game together, so we shared a lot of bonding time together. And funny story, he always said, I'm going to make you wear like an Everblades jersey one day. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever leave the Growlers, man. And so it was kind of like a perfect storm there. Evan Cormier was with Florida too, and he FaceTimed me and said, hey man, like we got a really good group, a good chance to win. So he had called me. A couple other captains throughout the league from those teams had reached out on players. But I went through, all the options, and ultimately, when I got a text from Brad Ralph, I knew it was real, who's the coach with Florida. It's funny because we've been enemies for years. Even my first year in Atlanta, like Florida beat us in round one. We were able to beat them the year we won, and then we lost them back-to-back years. So they were like a big rivalry. But after going through the snares, talking to my girlfriend and my family and whatnot, I just, some people were saying just go for the trip, and I just said like, it's different. Like they're trying to make history. Like I went to Florida. They weren't even in a playoff spot when I was going. So, like, we still had to make the playoffs. And in my opinion, just, after playing some of the other teams and just seeing, just knowing the league a little bit, like, I genuinely thought that, like, Florida out of the options, like, had the best chance that year. I thought they had the chance to win it. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but it really felt, like, from watching around the league, playing some teams and seeing some of the outcomes of different things and just, being able to experience a championship before, I just felt like the recipe was right to finally just make the jump. So Tuesday, I just texted everyone that had reached out, and I just said I'll get back to you guys all tomorrow, which I did. I thought I went thoroughly through every team and weighed the pros and cons and the opportunities of what we could do. And I think it was Wednesday night. I went bowling with my girlfriend under the Hutter, and I tried to stay off my phone, and I was just like, I need to make a decision here soon. And as we're bowling, I remember just stepping outside. I was like, I'm calling Florida. Like, I'm going to go to Florida. Like, it's just because, Ralphie, I think I posted on my Instagram. I'm sure you guys saw it, but it was a text from Ralphie, and it said, hey, Skirv, have you given any thought? Like, let's win a cup together. And I love that message back to him. And then I called him. I said, hey, like, I'm coming. Like, let's go do this. Let's go win. And I think I was on a flight the next morning at 5 a.m. and I got into Atlanta because they were playing in Atlanta that day. Went to the hotel, napped, hopped on a bus with them after, and then we played Savannah, so I played that next game. But yeah, it happened real quick. Like I said, I didn't think I'd ever see myself, wearing another jersey before, but I just felt like this was the time. Like this made sense. I needed a distraction, I needed an opportunity, and it was another chance to win a Kelly Cup. So it was the perfect storm, and it worked out really good.
So one more question before we wrap up with Reading. Again, like you said that they had to make the playoffs still, but like you went there, you played 4 games in the regular season, you played through the playoffs. Could you see that like real winning culture they had? Because they won like 2 Kelly Cups before then. Like they were proven winners. Like when you got there, and you probably knew it before, but when you got there, were you like, oh my God, like this team is like completely different. Like they are locked in on winning.
Yeah, like I just knew, like I walked into the rink in Atlanta, Joe Pendenza, Jostling, like I've just played against them. Like I actually don't even know them personally. Came up to me and like basically dabbed me up as if like I was like, I was there all year. Like I knew some of the guys there already, and then like I knew of guys just by playing against them. So like they were all pumped. I was like, honestly, guys, like I'm so pumped like to be here, and they're like, man, we're pumped to have you. And I was like, this is great. Like let's go do it. But just how like they did everything, like it was just like like when you're in a good spot, and like they do everything right, they treat their players right, like they have the resources, they give the players the resources, but as you go along like through the playoffs and whatnot, like that calmness. There's so many times like we were down 3-1 and there's only two of us in that locker room that ever been down 3-1. So we shared kind of our situation and like the thoughts that happen being on the wrong side of it and the thoughts that happen when you're up 3-1, and you just try to help, the team in general. And it was always pretty calm though. Like it was like, oh no, we're down a goal or two. Like we, Cam Johnson's in net. Like he's probably not giving up anymore. So it's like, all right, let's get the next one and get the next one. Or we're up 1 or 2. Like we could play a 1-0 game. And I never thought like, oh boy, like this is kind of worried. Like I'm worried. It's like, all right, we're up 1-0. Like, and I remember there was a quote even in the finals from like Tad O'Had. It said something like, anytime you spot Florida like 2, 3, 4 goals, like you're in one, because now you got to beat like, the way they play defense, and then you got to beat Cam Johnson. And it was so true. Like CJ, or any goal that we had there, but CJ had every game and he gave us a chance to win every night. So we were never, it's just that feeling of knowing and guys playing for each other and knowing what was at stake, a three-peat, guys that have been there. Like they had so many guys back from the team that won or have won before. It was all the right players and, right staff.
That's great.
That is awesome. So you're coming off a championship in Florida. When looking for another team, what made you choose Reading?
Why'd you choose where I live?
Well, I'd talked to like Florida again. There's a vet rule, so like now I'm a vet, so you're only allowed like 4 per team. So Florida was I was talking to Florida. I was talking to Maine. I think pretty good. I was talking to Cincy, pretty good as well, because that's where the Leafs affiliation was, and I was talking to Reading. So it was like I'd say the 4 teams that were like maybe more serious at the time. And then Florida had already had their vets. So like I totally understood the situation. Like when I joined it was the perfect storm, and I get it. And there's no hard feelings, and I wish those guys well. And I still champions walk together forever. So like, we're still really, really close. And then Maine, Cincy and Reading. And then as I was talking it down, when we folded, I got calls that day from coaches around the league and texts about joining the team. And Binkley was one of them. So he had actually said like, look, we're not trying to get you this year, but like, I want you to know that I'm going to hound you this summer because I'd like you to be part of my team next year. And as I told him before, I don't know if he knows how much weight that carried, just because he tried to just inject something really soon and early just for the following season too. And he said, go do your thing. Like, I wish you all the best. I hope you win. And I'll touch base in this summer. And sure enough, like a week or 2 after the season, like he had reached out, and I had conversations with, the coaches in Maine, with Wally and Painter and Cincy, and then obviously Ralphie in Florida. I had a lot, and then Binks. So I had, I talked to them a lot. Like I was open and honest with all of them, and I said, hey, like this is who I'm talking to. And I just kept going through the process, pros and cons. And the biggest thing I kept circling back to Reading was just opportunity to play, a big role, opportunity, to share my experiences, and all those different things. But opportunity was the biggest thing, because last year I didn't, play as much with Newfoundland. And then, just Binks gave me the opportunity to kind of take the lead in the locker room and in the community, and, get this organization going again and making the playoffs. Obviously, they weren't happy with last year's result. And I just felt it, as a motivator to, do whatever I can to help this team and this organization, because we've had some pretty good battles against them when I was in Newfoundland. The teams here were always strong. So just a chance to be a part of it, a chance to be a part of the culture shift, and just help these young guys and, turn things around. So, we're working on that right now. Obviously, I think we're back in a playoff spot, but, there's still lots of work to be done. But it's been exciting just to kind of really just work hard at it and, almost not necessarily get handed it, but just have to go through the process and really grind it out and show these guys and help these guys as much as I can to, push forward and hopefully make the playoffs again.
Now that you've been here for like 4 months, I can't count, but now that you've been here for a little bit, what is your overall like impression of the city, the team and the fans and all that stuff? Like, what is your impression been so far of this team?
It's been good. I've gotten to know the fans, from playing against them. Now they cheer for me instead of boo me, so it's been nice. But no, we take advantage. We have Baja, that Baja Wellness with cryo, red light, sauna pods. So like I go there every day. And Franco goes there pretty much every day with me. We drive around. So we take advantage of that. We go to B2 Bistro, the cafe, and we're so central to so many different places. So we've been to like an Eagles game, we've been to a Flyers game. So we're kind of in a unique spot where we're central to a lot of things. So if you take advantage of like those things when you have downtime, I feel like it's a lot of fun. There's things to be had, or things to do, and things to see. So I've enjoyed it. There's places in every town, no matter where you're in, that you could find something, even if there's not as much as other places. But I feel like there's a lot of different things, especially in West Reading, that you could do.
Yeah, there is a lot of stuff in West Reading. Well, I live an hour away from
Mhm.
Reading. I actually met my girlfriend at a Royals game one time, and that's how everything worked out. And I've been trying to really get my foot in the door with the team, and I really appreciate your time here, talking to me, because I think that a lot of them will see this, and I really do appreciate it. But I had one more question for you. This year has been, a rough year for the team relatively, dealing with injuries and a lot of other issues. How do you as a captain kind of get the guys going through that and like still motivate them, even with like new players coming in all the time? How do you still motivate this team to kind of play hard and keep winning games? Because, again, like this weekend wasn't that great, but you guys have been rolling as of late. And I think that, you and the guys have really helped turn this team around. So how do you kind of do that?
Honestly, just sticking with it. It's. I'd say like there's been times where it's still been hard for me to help the guys, just because we've been in the thick of it. We've the month of November was pretty tough. 16 games in 32 days. Like that's probably the hardest of my entire career, not just pro, but my entire career. So I'm just experiencing it. Obviously on the wrong side of a lot of those November games, but as of late, I think Christmas break helps, allowing guys to go home, see their families, wives, girlfriends, kids, whatever it may be, is a good refresher for guys. And you try to explain to players, just how those feelings are, like the feelings you're going to feel from the long start to the season, the feelings you're going to get from being rejuvenated and excited to play, how things amp up, how a season goes, like now we're in a playoff race, and like how exciting that is, and how you get to play meaningful games, and we're still in it even after all that. And then when guys have success, it's like, hey, like when you see yourself on video, like you're seeing the team success, you're seeing your individual success. So to have guys like experience that, see it, live it in real time, do it in practice, and then do it in games, like being able to like full circle moment that now. Guys know what it takes. Guys, aren't really rookies anymore. We're over halfway through the season. We only have under 30 games left now. So just trying to help them, like honestly, just grind through it. Like I'm grinding, they're grinding. And realistically, like you don't win championships in October, November. It's you win them in June. So you just got to keep preaching that to them, and trusting the process. I know it's so cliche, but with a young team and so many injuries and so many new bodies, like in this league, like you look at Florida when I went with them, like they had a good core of guys. You know what I mean? Like a core group that's kind of say like as of late, our lineup's been consistent. We've had similar lineups, similar guys in lineup. Guys are getting healthy again. And that makes a difference at this level, especially the pro level. Like it's hard to do it with a lot of young guys, but having these guys get that experience and have to be the next man up and whatnot, like it'll go a long way. And hopefully, it gives us enough push to make the playoffs. I mean, every guy in that room still believes it's definitely a different feel in that locker room than it was before Christmas. And, right after Christmas, it was still kind of lingering just a bit, but over the last month, like, yeah, obviously we laid an egg this past weekend against Adirondack, but guys are obviously upset and pissed, rightfully so, and they should be, but they all know like we've had success and we know it works for us. Like there's no question you could just go into the next game or the next period, the next shift, and just find a way to get it done again. So experiencing the shitty part of the season, and then good stuff, like it all the experiences, good or bad, is you have to go through it. And I'm glad we went through November already, and like realistically, like anything that happens now, I feel like we've experienced it. Whether it's a long bus trip, whether it's a couple of injuries, whether it's we get spanked, like we've experienced it all, but we've also experienced games where we've dominated, games where we've won, shootouts where we've won. You know what I mean? Like we've experienced it all. So you're hoping that, that's in the memory bank and guys use those experiences moving forward. And then come playoffs, I mean, it's kind of a marathon, but it happens quick. It's a new team and basically every week and a half, 2 weeks. So you're hoping that all these things that we experience now build us, for the playoffs, and that's the ultimate goal. I mean, you want this as the test run to just get you ready and give get in and give yourself a chance to win.
Well, it's that adversity that really kind of gets you through everything. And,
Yeah.
you've been through a lot already this year. I think that, it really, again, like it's not ideal going through some of the situations you guys did. Like, again, 16 games in 31 days is insane. But again, you learn from that. And again, as you said, like this is a young team that I think has a real chance to win. And it's just a matter of, getting these guys through it, learning this adversity, getting them through the thick of it of the season. So, yeah, I really do understand it from that perspective. And we really appreciate your time. Carter, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask?
I got one last question. This is one that I feel like every single hockey player gets asked, whether really high level or college or whatever it is. How many little kids do you think it would take to get the puck off you?
Oh, my God.
I go to some of the junior Royals practices, so probably when you get hemmed in a little box or a corner area, it'd probably take only 4 to 5 because, there's sticks flailing everywhere. So at some point, they're going to box you in and you're going to get tripped up or they're going to get a stick on you. So I'd say probably 3 to 5, depending on the area. I haven't been known for, my quick hands by any means, so I ain't no Patty Kane, but I'll try and get through as many, but let's just say, I don't know, 5 maybe. Depends the age, I guess.
Love
Those
that.
Reading Royals are feisty. I've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty rough. Well, we appreciate it, Todd. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to say for maybe some of the fans?
No, just thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. It's always fun to get on these and kind of reminisce about the past and kind of just thankful and grateful to be where I am today. And, it's been great to meet you guys and wish you guys luck with your podcast. I'm sure we can get another player on here. I think it was Millsy. I said we can get someone else on here, no problem. So we'll look forward to doing that and getting a few players on here for sure.
Is this your first podcast that you've been on, or have you been on other ones?
No, I've done other ones. Done a couple of video ones, done a couple voice ones. I'm not gonna lie, I've actually done quite a few. I can't remember them all. I've done several, so I was prepared. I had the hair done up, had the Royals, had to represent. Had to look good, fresh.
Yeah, I can tell you're dressed to impress while we look like sloppy teens. But
nah, you guys are ready for the podcast. I thought about it. I was like, maybe I should just throw a tee and a hat on. But I was like, you know what? I don't have a Royals t-shirt here. I was like, I only got a polo. So I was like, I got to do the hair. I can't be wearing a hat with a polo. Look too silly.
Going
well,
golfing.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah.